Welcome to Last in Line podcast, where we are highlighting, showcasing, and spotlighting great leaders of faith who have overcome adversity, cultivated resilience, and served others in a significant capacity. So settle in and be encouraged by this episode of Last in Line podcast. Guys, today we're going to talk a little bit about healthy headspace, things around anxiety a little bit. I'm going to give you some stats from 2022. Some you've heard before, some I hope we don't hear from again. I don't know that we'll ever get 100% grip on this, but I do have 5 tips for you to free your mind. And I'm not a mental health expert. I've had a few on the show before. I've had neurologists. I've had mental health experts like John Deloney. But a healthy headspace today is what I want to focus on. But I want to give you some stats from 2022 that might just reinforce the point that people need to free their mind. People need freedom. They want freedom. They chase freedom. They look for freedom in different ways. This is going to be a healthy headspace today, and we're going to talk about freeing your mind. So in 2022, 15 million Americans suffered from some sort of anxiety disorder. I know there's a broad overarching umbrella over different types of anxiety, but that's, I guess, all encompassing. 31% will experience some sort of anxiety in their lifetime. So 3 out of 10 Americans at some point in their life will suffer from anxiety. We had 49,000 and change suicides in 2022. 7.7 million Americans suffer from PTSD, and 10% of Americans suffer from depression. That's even the ones, these are just the ones that are diagnosed, right? So there are people who ebb and flow in that space, people that come and go in suffering from some of those conditions. You and I might have even been a part of that number at some point, just undiagnosed, right? So we're a part of a bigger number. So I got to tell you, today might be worth talking about. I know a lot of people are talking about it. If you can see me, I'm wiping my face because I just had a garage workout in hot weather. South Texas, of course, not a shocker, but doing a little sweating still. Healthy headspace, guys. I've got 5 tips to free your mind today. Some areas, though, before we jump in. First, I want to say thank you, I guess, for you showing up religiously, faithfully. I want to thank you for your efforts to be the godly man, husband, father, spiritual leader of your home that you're endeavoring to be. And I want to commend you for trying to grow. I want to commend you for actually being better today than you were maybe a month ago, a year ago, 10 years ago. Progress, not perfection. And so I want to commend you. I admire you guys. Let's stay on that course. So there are areas, though, that prevent some of this freedom that we look for mentally. Ways that I've found to struggle with finding freedom just in my headspace, getting in my own way, right? In my own head. There is pressure to provide as the man. I call it stereotypical, call it whatever you want. Pressure to provide. At least you should feel that to a degree, not to a paralyzing degree or extreme, but yes, we do have that mandate and call to provide for our families. You could be dealing with the pain of the past. You could have maybe some exuberant expectations of yourself that you may never live up to. That's part of getting in our own way, and that's where I think we set ourselves up for failure. And we get trapped in this mindset, okay, of this revolving door of anxiety, depression, manifesting itself in obsessing over certain things, binge watching, binge eating, binge drinking, vegging, isolating, escaping, like different things, guys. and you guys know what you do. You guys know what's been your crutch in the past. Hopefully not anymore. But we've set those wrong expectations, exuberant expectations. And then we're scared of the scarcity. Okay. I know we have a scarcity mindset on occasion. So we're fearful that it could all be gone tomorrow, or we're fearful that we may not have enough. We may lose everything we've got. We may get laid off. We may have a spouse leave us. We may not be able to send our kids to school. We have this fearful mindset of scarcity that we're not going to be able to make the ends meet and the dots connect financially, professionally, relationally. That could even go into you're fearful of a negative medical report because you're 3 generations have suffered from heart disease or suffered from some sort of disorder that you're afraid you're going to have. So you're fearful and you're constantly thinking about. So these are areas of bondage, because let's face it, the opposite of freedom is bondage. It's captivity. It can lead to paralysis. It can lead to unhealthy outlets and manifestations in ways that are harmful to ourselves and to other people. At the very least, are counterproductive to growth in certain areas that matter. And so to be who you need to be for the people that need you to be it, we got to free our mind. And I want to qualify tonight, because this is not a message about just letting go of the wheel, closing your eyes, holding your arms up in the air like you're on a roller coaster, and just, carelessly wandering aimlessly through life. If you don't know that's not what I mean, you probably should not listen anymore, because you're not going to understand going forward. 2 + 2 does not equal 4 for you, if you think that's what I'm saying. So we're going to gracefully let you bow out, and we're going to just give it a bless your heart if that's you. But I am saying, how has it been working for you? Gritting your teeth, squinting your eyes, holding on, squeezing the steering wheel so tight, white knuckling that sucker, having your arms wrapped around every single situation of control that you can think of, and just really willing the situation to be in your favor or the way that you want it, and imposing your will in everything you do. How's that been working for you? Because if you've ever experienced anxiety or depression or any kind of disorder that's in that ballpark of an unhealthy headspace, then you know what I'm talking about. And chances are you have been holding on a little too tight. And ultimately, if you're a Christian, that's just distrust in God. I've been there. I didn't realize that that's what it was, because by all means, we're not accusing me of ever not trusting God. Of course I trust God, right? Well, your actions show it. So the more you try to control everything, to me, there's an inverse relationship. You can't control everything and trust God entirely. Okay. Again, we have a part to play. He gave us a brain. He gave us 2 hands, 2 feet to walk this out and to get our hands dirty and to go to work and to think rationally. But ultimately, the results are up to him. We just have to tend our crop and plow our field, prepare our fields for rain, and then he shows up. So tonight, hopefully we can free you up. And I like the fact that there's a lot of people talking about this kind of thing, because it is a epidemic. It is, there is cause for concern. It is running rampant. And if you haven't faced any of this kind of thing, you will at some point, because we're human, we're fallible, we're fleshly, we're sinful, we're imperfect, we're people. Okay. Or else we wouldn't need a God if we weren't imperfect. We wouldn't need a perfect God. So we are going to suffer. We are going to take our eye off the ball. But tonight, I'm giving you 5 tips for freedom. Okay, guys? The first one, unhitch the unrealistic. So I talked about exuberant expectations earlier as part of bondage. Well, the antithesis of bondage to is freedom, and the way we get there is we unhitch the unrealistic. You and I expect some things that might be unreasonable to expect of ourselves and of other people. I feel like we set ourselves up because we idolize somebody enough, including ourselves, to put us above what we think God's capable of. So we got to feel like we got to step in and be that. And we're not God. I got news for you. You're not God and I'm not God. And there's only one. So I think it'd be important to maybe, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but writing down some of our expectations of ourselves, writing down some expectations of people, our boss. I mean, half the time we've got an unrealistic expectation of our boss. And so that's why we're constantly let down and disappointed. That's why we're constantly unproductive, or that's why we may not be chosen for certain positions of responsibility or promotions in the workplace, because we've created an unhealthy environment and an unhealthy headspace in ourselves because we've expected the wrong thing from the wrong people. You got to loosen your grip on these expectations. You can't take yourself so seriously either. To me, that's a lot of pride, because you feel like you've got to have all the answers. You've got to be in control and you've got to be super proficient all the time, almost to a point of perfection, that you have no room. You leave yourself no margin for error. And I'm guilty. Like at work, if I don't do enough selling and make enough of a bonus, if I don't hit that mark that I have expected of myself, it is falling short. It is underachieving for that quarter. When in fact, you know what? I could just realize, look, stop holding on so tight to those expectations. Unhitch the unrealism and understand that it's ebbs and flows. It's a cyclical thing. Can be really good one quarter, not so good the other, maybe in the middle on another. So it's all about just keeping the main thing, and head down, grind it out, do the right reps. You've heard me say, and then acknowledge the results, learn from some of those, and then move on and make adjustments, but continue doing what works. So that's number one. We got to unhitch unrealistic. Second one is you got to curb the comparisons. And we talk a lot about that. And I don't think you can overstate that, because we live in a society that is around every corner. We are constantly comparing ourselves. We're constantly making those comparisons. We can learn, but we don't have to linger. Okay. We can look at people and admire their work. We can admire their accomplishments, but we don't have to linger there. We don't have to sit and marinate in their success to the point of feeling inadequate ourselves, because that's where it goes. Ultimately, you can look at somebody and admire what they've done, and you stay there long enough, you make them an idol, and then you have diminished anything you've done, because you compared to them is inadequate. We can get there. So you got to curb the comparison. I'm not saying it's totally unhealthy to do a comparing of yourself and somebody else. And okay, we're doing like tasks, and this is where they got, and this is where I am. Maybe I could do this to get where they got. They're doing that. Okay. So maybe I can adopt a little bit from them. I mean, sports teams do it all the time. They kind of implement different things that other teams are doing to be successful. And so they learn from them, but they don't linger in that. They seek, but they don't stalk. So we're seeking to learn. We're seeking, maybe we ask advice. We ask, like, what are you guys doing over there that's working so well? And then but we don't stalk. We don't constantly peer over their shoulder, figuratively, and spy and linger and stalk and follow and just continuously micro manage all that they're doing because they had some success. And we think we got to take everything from them and be that person. Think we got to be them just because we want some of their success. We got to be them. You don't have to change yourself. That's where we get sticky. That's where it gets messy. So you got to curb the comparison. Okay. That's number two. Number three, kind of ripping right through these. I hope you're getting something out of them. Even if you get one from each one of them, I mean, that's 5 ways for you to get free today. Because look, You know somebody, if it's not you, that might be a little anxious, that might be a little wrapped around the axle. Maybe your kids are stressed about school. Maybe your wife is having a stressful season at her job. Maybe the relationship is a little rocky at times because everybody's on edge. This could be you, or you do know somebody, and this could maybe help somebody. So if you take one thing, that's a win. So where am I at? Number 3. Wider watch. Get a wider watch. Have a wider watch. Wider, W-I-D-E-R, watch. A broader lens of perspective. Have a wider watch, guys. Watching from a wider perspective, a broader lens. Okay? That allows us to actually see the whole picture. If you're looking through binoculars or a telescope, you're focused in on one thing from a long way away, right? You're trying to see it, but you're laser focused, really. You can't see somebody coming up behind you or from the side of you that's going to smack you in the side of the head. You can't see any sort of imposing potential threat or encounter from the peripheral if you're locked in on a binocular or a telescope or a microscope. So miss me with micro. All right. That's what I have under here. And that was kind of I'm having a little fun with this, but miss me with some of that micro stuff. Micromanaging under a microscope, yourself, your daily life, you get so focused, so laser focused, you miss some things around you. You miss what might be good happening because you're so focused on what's an imposing potential threat, or what's a risk, or what is negative, what didn't go your way, what outcome wasn't what you thought, what disappointment was right in your face. So a wider watch is going to allow us to maybe see a bigger perspective, and maybe we can get a glimpse of what's around us, what's in the peripheral of your life, your job. If you're given a task at your job and you're stressed out and you're not going to meet a deadline, look around. There's people that you can help. Okay. There's people that maybe admire you for having the responsibility, and you're missing that. You're missing the good that your company might be doing as a whole because you're wrapped around that axle of a spreadsheet that you're not going to turn in on time. That's micro. That's laser. Miss me with the micro, guys. That causes stress. That causes an unhealthy headspace. Trying to get free tonight. Okay. If you're looking through that telescope at every little thing you do, yeah, you might be locked in on that one thing, but there's a lot of other things going on around you that you're missing, that are good, that are healthy, that are productive, that are blessings that you're going to miss. Okay. Because you're sprinting so fast in that one direction. So anyway, get a wider watch, wider, okay? Get a broader lens of perspective. And it may not, that thing that you've magnified, that you've blown up so big, might get a little smaller when you compare it to a bigger picture. Okay. Number 4, enlist the influencers. I'm not talking about the blue check guys. Okay. The people that are out there that are, got millions of followers, and, it's a whole thing. There's just a lot of people out there that are quote unquote influencers. Number one, we don't know what their life's like behind closed doors. We don't know what their relationships are like. We don't know if their wife thinks they're a pile of garbage. Like, we don't know, but they have a check and they've got an influence. And so all of a sudden they know more than we do. That's a little side note. Sorry, I went off on that tangent, but enlist the influencers that you trust. All right. I call this a weekly whetstone call. The weekly whetstone. That's how you get sharper. We sharpen knives on whetstones. Your weekly whetstone. Who can you call that you trust that might be a little rough around the edges, might create some friction if they tell you the truth, but you trust them. They do it in love, and you're welcoming of that correction. You're welcoming of instruction. You're welcoming of their perspective. Call 1 to 2 guys. Just pick 1 to 2 that you consider influencers in your life. And what I mean by that is they have influence. Their opinion matters. It holds weight. Okay. You chew up the meat, spit out the bone, and there's very little bone in what they have to say. That's mostly meat. Pick one or two of those people in your life that have influenced you in the past that you trust to speak truth and love and grace, but honesty, and you don't have to pull punches with them and vice versa. That's your weekly whetstone call. You got to enlist an influencer in your life. You got to bounce ideas. I mean, if you've got some things bouncing around in your mind, yeah, you've got a cheering section at home, but look, sometimes that can be an echo chamber. Sometimes those people don't want to offend you or hurt your feelings. Yeah, they want to tell you the truth, but maybe they don't give you all of the perspective. They don't play the devil's advocate like they should in some areas. You got these ideas and you got these dreams and these visions. Maybe you bounce it off people you trust that are going to go, it's a little out there, a little far-fetched. I just wrote this book, okay, and I'm publishing it this next week. Should get the copies in a few weeks. I sent it to people, not necessarily that I have the most in common with, or that I go drink coffee or go to church with, or that our kids play baseball to get. Like, it's not necessarily those people. It's the people I respect, I admire. They've had success, but I also know they're not afraid to get down and dirty with the truth. So I've sent it to people. I've got some good feedback. I've got some, you might think of this, you might consider this. And at first I'm not good at constructive criticism always, but I've prepared myself, going back to the number one, where it's the unrealistic expectations. I've created realistic expectations of, I'm not always going to get what I want to hear back, or else what's the whole point of that exercise? So enlist the influencers in your life. You get that weekly whetstone call that sharpens you. It's a little rough. There's friction. There could be heat. Okay. There may be some grind in the conversation. Okay. But you come away sharper, and bounce ideas off those people. You know who they are. It may not be the same people every time. If you've got more than one or two in your life that fall in that category, hey, hats off to you. Good on you. I only maybe have one or two, if that. So that's it. That's number 4. Here's your 5th tip. All right. Healthy headspace, guys. I know you think it seems like everybody's talking about anxiety. It seems like everybody's talking about mental health. It seems like, and again, all I have is life experiences. Okay. I know a lot of neurologists from my job. That's who my customers are. So I've gotten clinical side of things from just one of my physiological. I know how the brain kind of works, but anxiety, I've dealt with it. I know people that dealt with it, depression, those kinds of things. So hopefully this is good for you. So here's the last one. Okay. We've got to do a data dump. Data dump. Okay. Data. If you say data, you're weird. Data dump. Okay. I'm just playing. It could be either way. There's not a right or wrong answer here. Most of the time there is. People that tell you there's never a right or wrong answer are lying to you. But here, probably not a right answer. But data. If you're cool, you say data. Data dump. So we've got to purge our thoughts. I say weekly, maybe daily. A lot of you keep a daily journal. I'm bad at it, even though I know it's probably a good idea. I'm not disciplined to do that. I do some stuff in my notes. Maybe this is considered a data dump whenever I come on here once a week and just vomit all over you. But we've got to purge our thoughts. We can clean out that system. Okay. It's kind of like your air ducts of your mental health space, your head space. You just clean it out. Okay. Clean out the dryer, lint in the dryer, whatever you call the lint tray. Clean that out, right? So we dump our thoughts for what, even the toxic thoughts, the stinking thinking, dump them, clean it out, make room for some good stuff. So purge those thoughts, and then vision vomit is what I call the last one. So we're data dumping, and so we go vision vomit here. So we're doing just vomit all over the paper, figuratively, okay, with your pen, okay? Just all the visions you have, the dreams, the goals. I'm not a big goal guy, but I'll throw that in there because it sounds sporty. Goals. It sounds professional. It sounds big time. I think goals are overrated. Sorry for those of you that are all into that. But vision is not overrated. Without vision, the people perish, says in the Bible. So look it up. Vision vomit. If you write those things down that you see maybe yourself doing 3 to 5 years, maybe 3 to 6 months, write some things down, dreams that you have, the big ones, little ones. Your goal is to do this. My goal is to buy an RV in 5 years. I'm probably got another 10 before I retire, but we'll see how it goes. My goal is to have, kids moved out of the house in, 5 to 7 years. I'm just saying those are not really gold, but that's my vision. I have a vision to, have a podcast in my company talking to employees about company culture and how we retain good employees, and learning about people behind the scenes of what they like in their personal life, what inspires them. That's a vision I have, trying to get that off the ground, trying to get buy-in. So write those things down. And what's the worst that can happen? You don't do them. Well, you're already not doing them. So you can't do them any less than you're not doing them right now. So write them down. You just never know. When you write that vision, then all of a sudden you're writing an outline. Then all of a sudden you're writing people to contact for investment. You're writing down ways you can steward your finances better, where you have a little bit of a surplus to make an investment yourself in whatever project or vision you have. Looky there. You started with a vision, you wrote it down, and now all of a sudden you've got a plan. Now all of a sudden you've got something that takes shape and actually takes steps toward that thing. All right. So there we go. That's 5 tips. I usually do 3. I didn't know if I was going to be able to pull off 5 tonight, but for a healthy headspace, it's worth coming up with 5. And there might be a lot more. 5 tips to free your mind. I will recap. Yes, I will. Just for you, because you're writing them down. I know you are. Okay. So we got to ditch these areas of bondage that we talked about: the pressure to provide, the pain of the past, exuberant expectations, scared of scarcity. Drop those. Okay. Got to get free. Got to get rid of the bondage. Cut the chains, people. Cut the chains. Not cut the cheese. Cut the chains. All right. Here we go. 5 tips for freedom. Number 1, unhitch the unrealistic. Number 2, curb the comparison. Number 3, get a wider watch. Okay. Number 4, enlist the influencers in your life. And number 5, dump the data, people. All right. Hey, dig in, get busy, bow your neck, grit your teeth. Let's move forward, but don't hold on so tight. Let yourself off the hook in some areas. Get in prayer. Get with God. He's got the results. He equipped you with gifts. Use them. Take a step, 1 foot in front of the other, guys. I promise you, you will get free. You will have a healthy headspace going forward. With that, be blessed.